Welcome for a very special edition of the Prodigal Guide. We're here with Stefan Johansson, who is a legend in the motorsport industry. Hopefully a number of you know that this is the guy who raced for Enzo Ferrari himself. Not many people around who can say that today. We're here at the 24 Hours of Spa, and we're actually going to be talking to Stefan about a number of things, about cars, about watches, about his experiences, and where he's heading to next. So, to make it very easy, let me ask you a simple question. Why do you drive, Stefan?
Well, it's like most things I've been fortunate to do in my life. At least it's purely because it's my passion, first and foremost. Of course, it's also been my job for the last 30 years. So, you know, I'm now at this stage of my life, it's pretty much sort of reliving my boyhood dream, you know, but it's a great way to live your life.
What was it that, so you say it's like a boyhood dream, was there something special that kind of sparked it for you, that sort of inspired you? Can you remember? Was there anything specific?
Yeah, I think my dad was racing when I was young, you know, so I grew up with it pretty much. And I was 4 or 5 years old when I started going to races with him, and so it sparked the passion very early on, and it's been there ever since.
What is it about, you know, pushing a car to its limits that gets you there? So is it that kind of special place, that zone where everything is focused on solely doing the one thing, which is...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, it's you feel the car, you know, the car almost becomes like an extension of your body, you know. You balance the car with the throttle, the steering, and you feel everything, you see everything, you smell everything, you know, and it's just like everything is just like so pure, you know.
What's the closest call you've ever had? Have you ever had a serious shunt or accident in a race car?
Yeah, there's been a few.
Yeah, and has... Yeah. Exactly, we'll knock it wherever it is. This carbon fiber, right?
Wood underneath.
And was, I mean, and how do you deal with that? Is that something that kind of scares you to the core? How do you recover from it? I mean, what goes on?
Not really. I mean, it's a strange thing with drivers. You know, you just kind of move on. You know, and it's once you get, of course, you think about it. I mean, when you get away from the track and you're at home, and not necessarily even when you've had an accident yourself, but I mean, I've lost, in the early days in particular, I lost a lot of my best friends, you know, because that's how it was back in those days. And of course you think about it, you know, it's totally human. But once you get back in the car, you get in the rhythm, you know, and you just get, then you forget about everything. And it's almost sick in a way, you know, because you really truly forget everything. And I mean, you know, whether it's something going on in your life or even if you're really sick, you know, once you get in the car and your adrenaline is pumping and everything, you know, it's just everything just kind of goes away. You know, it's a really amazing state of mind to be in.
Well, on a related note, you know, there's a lot of talk about safety and kind of racing becoming much more antiseptic. So I don't want to sound callous, of course, because of what you've said to me. In the early days, losing a lot of people, a lot less focus on it. With the emphasis on safety today in driving, once again, it may sound like a strange question, but is this a good thing for the sport? Do you think this has helped in a lot of ways? Is there anything negative about it, or is it only good? I mean, how would you kind of see the relationship between the racing and the safety elements?
Yeah, I mean, it's good, of course, but I think there should be, I mean, the thing is, even with the cars the way they are today, they're so well engineered now that you're kind of slicing away different tools in the arsenal, if you like, of what a complete and great racing driver used to be. You know, with like, you know, you had the cross gate gearbox before, which was very tricky and quite difficult to shift quick enough, you know, and you could lose half a second to a second a lap just by how fast you were shifting. Now, of course, it's all on the paddles, you know, so you can't miss a gear, you can't shift any slower or quicker because you just hit a button and then it changes, you know, and power steering and all these kind of things, and also, of course, the safety, because for sure, back in the early days, you know, if there was a tricky corner, super fast corner with a barrier 3 feet away, it took a certain amount of bravery to go as quick as you could around there. Whereas today, if you go too fast, you just end up going on, you know, over the white line and then over to the asphalt on the outside, and then the next lap you back off a little bit because you know you were going too fast, you know. But so, of course, I'm not against safety. None of us want anybody to get hurt, but I think I miss the bravery element, you know. But thankfully, I get to race at Le Mans and places like that where you still have that type of corners in some places. Yeah.
So do you think, I mean, this is to the question of, I mean, you yourself are, in fact, a great driver, and there are many legends, of course, that are, that can be mentioned in motorsport, Fangio being one of them. Do you think it's comparable to talk about the achievements of really good race car drivers today to the ones of yesteryear? Or like you said, the fact of having to shift manually to others meant that you required higher levels of skill or a broader set of skills? Do you think it's become maybe too pointed, too...
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with racing, I guess like anything you do in life, you can be mediocre at 95%, but it's the last 5% that's like an absolute grind, to chip away at it until you get to like 100% or to be the best at whatever you do. And, you have to become a specialist in every category. So you could take the best driver in Formula 1 today and put him in a British Touring Car Championship, and he'll be nowhere the first few races until he figures out exactly what he needs to do to get the best out of that particular situation. So having said that, the cream always rises to the top. The best guys will always win races, of course. That's never going to change. But I do believe that back in the early days, Fangio, in my opinion, was the greatest driver ever. I really do.
I agree, personally.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I do. Because I've seen, I never saw him race, but I've seen some onboard footage, and the guy was just amazing. Braver than anybody could ever dream of being, and just car control and just, fantastic driver.
There was, I once heard it said by a driver called Dirk Scheusman, who I think was one of the first to break the 8-minute barrier in a production car at the ring. I think, now we know this is the constant run. Everybody wants to set a new Nordschleife record. But he said something interesting about driving. He said he was asked, who would make a good driver, and he said a ballet dancer, which I thought was an interesting thing to say. He said the sense of balance and skill set.
I can understand that. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is, when you get in the rhythm, it really is kind of, it's. I mean, you hit your marks, but so does the dancer. They know the routine, but it's. Yeah, I can see that.
The flow in between.
Yeah, you get in the flow, and it all sort of comes really beautiful, and it's just kind of happening in a nice way,
And so, speaking of which, when for you do you think was the moment where you reached that? Well, where you reached not past tense, but where you felt that you reached a real pinnacle in a lot of ways? What was a highlight for you of your career? It's spanned decades now, but.
Yeah, of course, if you count the wins, I guess the Le Mans 24 Hours would probably be the highlight in that respect. But, like I said to so many people, it's really, there's so many races. First of all, when the stars line up and everything is perfect, you're going to win the race because you have the best car, you have all the circumstances around you just line up, and it gives you the opportunity to, if you do your job, you're going to win the race. But of course, there's a million other times when that doesn't happen, but you still have to do the best you can, and you still, so it's really a question of enjoying the moment, and there's been races when you're fighting for 10th place, with some other, top class driver who also didn't happen to have the best car on the day, but you've extracted every millimeter, every percent out of the car that you possibly can, and driven a perfect race, and without making any mistakes or anything. So through the years, that's the one thing I've learned to enjoy. You just got to enjoy the moment and just appreciate what it is you do.
So what is it? Stefan, so that's for the moments, and I think it's right about what you said. This kind of 10th place, but you really had to put everything you could into it and really beat out.
Yeah.
But what's a moment of failure? When is it that? And so I would imagine not just losing a race or not being high enough on the podium, but when does it fall apart? When is a moment not good for you when it comes to driving?
Well, it's all the stuff that goes with it, especially in Formula 1, because there's so much, bullshit with all the stuff you have to deal with outside the car, and that's the tough part. But it's an equally important part of the business if you want to be successful, especially at that level. Yeah. Politics is unbelievable, and just the pressure is massive, so, and you have to really fight for your territory in the team. And I guess that's where my weakness was in many ways, because I just, I'm not that type of person, And,
you don't want to bullshit.
Well, it's like you really have to it's just on never ending, it's just you have to watch everything, and you just have to work every angle, outside the car, and that's something I was never particularly fond of,
So you said you've been doing this now for like 30 years. What do your respective other and your kids think of all this? Have they do you feel that they kind of understand, buy and support, or not at all, totally disinterested, or
no? Well, more than anything, they understand because they know it's my life, it's my passion, and if I weren't able to do it, then no, I'd be just miserable, you know. So.
But like keep daddy happy.
No, but it's true. I mean, it really is true. I mean, it's a wonderful life to live your boyhood dream all your life, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of tough because it's such an incredible environment and this whole state of mind you're in, that when you're not doing it, it's not easy to find what to do to replace it, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
So when I'm home, you know, and I don't have the opportunity to do it, it's not, I don't necessarily think it's any different, but they can see the difference.
Like he's in a foul mood, he's not racing.
You gotta go and find a car to drive, because we don't get the hell out of the house.